Now, this could be a dangerous one. You can see the peloton have really eased up, so it's well represented.
Yeah, there's a rider there from WM3, is Hannah Barnes, who you can see in the white jersey with the red and white stripes, so the British national champions. She's riding for Canyon SRAM. It looked like there might have been a Boels Dolmans rider there, but it's hard to tell when they're riding in great team pursuit team time trial formation right now, aren't they?
They certainly are. And yes, Hannah Barnes has had some good form recently. She had a tough year last year, but she did manage to win the national championship, so she's wearing the, as we spoke about before, the national champions jersey there, the white one. That's Hannah Barnes, Canyon SRAM.
It's mostly small teams there, apart from WM3 and Canyon. There's Lara's Wildales on the front there. The Lensworld Kuota there with rider number 132, which is Maria Giulia Confalonieri, Italian sprinter, very good track rider, and again another up-and-coming rider. She had a couple of podiums in the Giro last year.
We can see again that there's not a very strong reaction from the peloton, but they are moving, and it's Orica Scott on the right side of the road that are doing most of the work, and they have done all day, and they're trying to get some cooperation here, and they are urgently wanting to bring this back. You can see there now that the work that they're putting in, and they are taking a lot of responsibility in this race.
What do you think of that tactic of Orica Scott? Because we've seen them do this all season, and it's not paid off yet into a win. Of course, it's made the race more enjoyable for spectators. You can see that group; they're kind of giving up a little bit there. But the Lara's rider refusing to stop.
It's an interesting tactic of Orica Scott, and like you said, it hasn't paid off so often for them. But I think because they have a lot of young riders, and they really want them to get the experience of doing the job for their teammates, that they often do. The directors give them very specific goals to get on the front and to chase this down, and you can see they are working very, very hard now. They've got Gracie Elvin in great form as well as Annemiek van Vleuten. Gracie wants to have a great race today. She said she's done everything possible in her preparation, but we just saw a big turn there. So
that's Flavio Oliveira, the Brazilian rider for Lensworld Kuota. Lara's Wildales. And they, of course, have Talita de Jong, the young Dutch prodigy. She won a Giro stage last year. She was the cyclocross world champion last year. Very much an all-round rider. And so maybe they're riding for Talita.
All pace is certainly on now. We see the head of the race, Schlick from Sunweb. She's been out there for quite a while. You can see the hips are just starting to rock a bit. She'll certainly be very, very tired, but she has had quite a strong ride just to be able to do that, because you can see the pace of the peloton. Now it's Nettie Edmondson, the Australian, recently had a win with Elisa Longo Borghini just behind her, lifting the pace. So they really, really want to do something. Ellen van Dijk, all the favourites are up there now.
Of course, the next climb is the Canariaberg, and once they hit the Canariaberg, they have got 34.9 kilometres to go. And of course, that's where Elisa Longo Borghini attacked attacked too early and went on to win in 2015. So they know that this is where it gets quite serious. In the past, we've seen Ellen van Dijk attack, but after that as well, and win the solo. So really, they have to kind of start paying attention, and that's why some of those big names are suddenly up the front rather than more of the domestiques.
Well, I think that might have been what we were seeing from the Orica Scott team. A few riders just off the road there. A little bit tricky to get back on with the lip. You have to do a little bit of a jump to get over that little lip, but this is why the teams were fighting so hard. Not necessarily to bring that breakaway rider back, but just to get in good position for this climb, so we might see some fireworks. We'll certainly get an indication of who's got good legs and who hasn't at this point of the bike race.
These roads are very, very, very narrow. Positioning skill is absolutely key in them, because as you saw on that corner, if you take a corner wrong, you're at the back, and at the back, when the climb's gone here, which must be the foothills of the Canariaberg, it's becomes very serious. So Sunweb there on the front, you can see the orange of Boels Dolmans, the bright pink of Elisa Longo Borghini, and there's Lizzie Dinan just speeding up while there's more attacks on the right hand side. That's Kasia Niewiadoma, the Polish champion of WM3, with Ashley Moolman-Pasio behind her and Elisa Longo Borghini behind her. This is suddenly really getting serious now.
This is the serious moves, and this is one of the riders that we said would be capable of a win today. Kasia Niewiadoma, she's here without a strong team. She hasn't got Marianne Vos by her side. but it's Ashley Moolman-Passio from Cervelo Bigler just behind, a really, really good climber. We always see there in the hard races at the business end, but not one of those riders that often pulls off the win. Elisa Longo-Borghini, she covered things, so obviously still in great form. She's been in top form since winning in Strade Bianchi the first round of the Women's World Tour. It's a rider from Boels-Dolmans who we'll pick up in a minute.
That's Lizzie Danon.
Elena Cecchini, the Italian national champion, number 34, is also in there. But Kasia Nieuwedoma, she knows that if she wants a chance in this bike race, she needs to make it hard.
And look at her. She's really not going to stop. She's really not going to stop there. And it's lovely to see the crowds cheering. This is such a different atmosphere for so many of the women's racers. What I love about the women's peloton is when they get chances like this, they take it with both hands. They really want to put on a show today.
Oh, who's got the legs and who hasn't? That favourite we're talking about before, Ellen van Dijk's just clawing away back to these riders. So didn't make the initial move there, but coming back. And there's a rider from Silence in there as well. Just try and pick up who that is in the black and green of Silence.
Silence have got some very strong riders. They've got Shayla Gutierrez and Danny King as in the team, who there's likely to be. And Anna van der Breggen there, you can tell her by the European jersey with the stars on it. But look at this climb. The Canadiaberg is really ripped into pieces right now.
Well, it was the work of Kasia Nieuwedoma, and I think Elisa Longo-Borghini just took over at the front there.
It's an average of 7.7 this climb, but it's not just the effect of this one. It's the cumulative thing. Riders there who are there. You can see Amelie Didriksen struggling there at the back, but like she said at the front at the start of the race, this isn't the race, the parkour that suits her best.
Well, I think we also saw Jolien Dora blow up when we hit this. She said she didn't have good legs during the race to the race director. We got that news through. And Elisa Longo-Borghini had to take over the reins of the leader today. But there's Corin Rivera of Sunweb just hanging on there, which is really interesting on such a tough climb like that. So that puts Sunweb in an even stronger position with Ellen van Dijk in there as well.
Corin Rivera is she was a young prodigy from the USA, but she's having her first full season in Europe this year with Sunweb, and she's been fantastic. She won the Trofeo Alfredo Binder, and she won it from a bunch of sprint, but she was out there in the attacks. So that's Lizzie Danon on front, the former 2015 world champion, British rider in the orange of Boels-Dolmans. Elisa Longo-Borghini in second, Ashley Moolman-Passio, the South African from Cervelo Bigler, in the third. And we see Ellen van Dijk's up there, and that's a very scary thing for everyone else because Ellen is super strong.
Lizzie Danon looks very comfortable today as well. So obviously if you've won this race before, it gives you some confidence. And as we said, she sat out Gent-Wevelgem last weekend to get herself into a little bit better health for this. Perhaps she has come back to full health because she looks quite comfortable.
Yeah, with Rosanna Slicks being caught in that climb, so we're right back at the front of the race again. And you can see the way Danon takes those corners. She's so good in the corners. She's so much fun to watch as a bike racer.
So we've got Danon, Longo-Borghini, Moolman-Passio, Kasia Nieuwedoma, Elena Cecchini, and a long string of riders behind them. We haven't picked up the rider from Silence yet, but we have Ellen van Dijk there. We've seen Rivera just hanging on.
Of course, it's 8.4 kilometres between the Canadiaberg and the Kruisberg, and the Kruisberg it's 26.5k to go. And if a rider attacks there and gets away, she can make it. We're counting down the climbs, just 3 climbs, and then that long running. Hannah Barnes there on the front for Canyon SRAM, and in that pale blue jersey you can see Cecilia Uttrup-Ludwig from Cervelo Bigler, very strong young rider who's having a fantastic Danish rider. 2 Danes right there in front. We'd have never thought we could say that a couple of years ago, but there's world champion Amalie Didriksen and Cecilia Uttrup there. Danish cycling, a force to be reckoned with.
Well, this is interesting. With 33 kilometres to go, we wouldn't have expected to see this many riders left in the race. This is a little chase group from behind with Orica Scott.
It's strange having the sunny weather. It's normally we see the rain rip this apart, rip them apart there. It looks like we've got a little attack group there.
Well, that just gives you an indication now, this shot, of how many groups there is out on the road. It's all completely split up, and because these climbs come so thick and fast, it's not likely that a big group will come back together. But it's Kasia Nieuwedoma and Amy Peters of Boels Dolmans, who's looking very strong and comfortable today, that are applying the pressure. Hannah Barnes just swings over, then she realises she can't. She needs to close this for her teammates behind.
Barnes is here. She's a sprinter, but she's here to work her heart out for her teammates. And these riders, they've been dropped. This is what's going to happen. It's very, very hard to get back on, because right at the front they're going to keep on attacking.
Yeah, well, you can see the cars are passing now, which is an indication that those riders won't be coming back.
I mean, not many riders actually get to finish the Ronde van Vlaanderen, do they? Or all the classics. You can end up with a classic with less than half the peloton that started. Anyone who finishes this can feel proud of herself. So Orica seem to have lost a lot of riders there at the back, but right at front they've still got some big names.
They have a couple here in the front group, so that was their intention. We can see Amy Peters, Kasia Nieuwedoma.
And it looks like a Sunweb rider there attack. Is that Lucinda Brand having a go?
It is, and Sunweb are in a strong position here because they have Lucinda Brand, they have Ellen van Dijk and Corinne Rivera still in this main group. 3 riders, so it is a bit of a numbers game here. Boels Dolmans have plenty of numbers up there.
You could see Amalia Diedrichsen. She's playing domestique role. As soon as Lucinda Brand went, she's on her wheel, because Brand is a very, very dangerous rider. Marianne
roll through for a turn there. Her job is just to hold on to that wheel for as long as she can. Orica Scott still riding very strong, closing down that gap.
Yeah, it's interesting. You can always tell what the other teams think of a rider by who actually chases them. When you've got the world champion chasing you down, you know that you're a good rider. But Lucinda Brand is incredible. She won Omloop Nieuwsblad, of course, out of a small group with Ellen van Dijk. Van Dijk and Brand just traded attacks to get to the finish until Brand took off in the final few kilometres. Brand, you wouldn't normally expect her to be at the end, but if she can get over the hills, then she's got a very fast finish, and she often beats riders who are faster than her just by being cleverer.
She certainly is a very clever bike rider. We can see there that she's leading the front group now. That's the head of the race. Diedrichsen just fighting with everything she's got left to hold on for as long as she can, but she doesn't expect to get right to the finish. 31 kilometres to go at Tour of Flanders 2017.
This is where it all gets serious, and you can see they're strung out in one long line, and that means the pace is very fast. And these riders are exhausted, of course, because of course they've ridden over 120 kilometres already to get to this point. It's a long race. We say this a lot, and we're going to say this last sort of season, but this is the season where everything's going to change. And there's still a lot of teams represented at the front. There's a rider from Ale Cipollini in the luminous colours, from Orica Scots. At least a couple of Boels Dolmans. They're very strongly represented up here.
Well, one jersey we're not seeing in there is the World Tour leader of Elisa. Oh yes, we just saw her pop her head around there, so the World Tour leader Elisa Longo Borghini is in there. Ellen van Dijk just taking a bottle. You can see she's got on her handlebars there.
That's Ellen van Dijk taking a drink. Now you can always spot Ellen van Dijk. She's a very tall, rangy rider on the front, and she's very, very powerful. And if you've got Ellen van Dijk sitting on the front, you've got to watch for attacks. We have an attack coming up on the right-hand side there. You can see how they have to take these tight corners. It's much better when it's in a thinned down group than this, to take these little tight corners that are so typical of the classics. Second group there, about 5-10 seconds back, would you say?
Yeah, it's not a big gap, but in a race like this now, that it's just going to get harder and harder and faster, even if those riders do come back, it's the riders who are here and who are being active in this front group that are going to be the main players coming into the last 30 kilometres.
They're using this chance. This chance is nothing particularly flat at this point. It's rolling, but Diedrichsen, who's a very good sprinter, they put her in the front to keep it very, very fast before they get to the Kreuzberg. About 26.5 kilometres to go, which is the next big obstacle to come. Kreuzberg is average 5%, maximum 8%, and they're putting Diedrichsen to use that speed. Doesn't matter if she can't make it to the end. If she can get her team launched, that's her job done.
Well, Diedrichsen's doing a fantastic job for Lizzie Deignan and the Boels Dolmans team today. And this is the riders that we're going to see play this out. We did all the favourites are there. Kasia Nieuwedoma, Elisa Longo Borghini, Lizzie Deignan, Annemiek van Vleuten from Orica Scott.
There's still quite a lot of sprinters up there, and that gets interesting too, because if you're a pure classics rider like Lizzie Diamond, you don't want to go to, if she's got a very fast finish, but she doesn't want to go to the finish with a sprinter like Hannah Barnes or a sprinter like Corinne Rivera, does she?
Well, they have 3 more climbs to get over yet, so it'll be interesting to see which sprinters can get over these 3 climbs. You can see now that group's closing in a little bit, but as we said, as these climbs start, 3 more climbs. The Kreuzberg, the Olde Quarmont and the Paterberg, and then it's an interesting 13 kilometres to the finish, because it's flat and fast, and that's when the sprinters could come back.
Yes, and we've seen that happen before. One of the things that's beautiful about these classics, a good classic can be won in every way. You look back at it and you can see solo attacks, you can see a pair, you can see a sprint from a small group. Now there you've got there's Jolien Dora on the front of that, on the front there of this little chase group, but Christine Majerus there in the it's
interesting to see Majerus back there from Boels-Dolmans, and Jolien Dora. She's just doing some work to try and get Claudia Lichtenberg, her teammate behind her, back into this front group, because Lichtenberg can be of use to Elisa Longo Borghini if she gets back there.
Lichtenberg, of course, is a former Giro Rosa winner. There's only one Grand Tour for women, the Giro Rosa. Happens in Italy in the summer season. Here we are, we're on Kreuzberg. You can see that height.
Well, that's Amy Peters again from Boels-Dolmans and Kasia Nieuwedoma. We're seeing the same riders, Ashley Moolman-Passio just behind, and Elisa Longo Borghini. That's all the riders that we saw on the last climb applying the pressure, so it's the same riders at the front there. Annemiek van Vleuten of Orica Scott. Lizzie Deignan, no doubt, in there comfortably, just sitting on the right. We can see her there, maybe under a little bit of pressure. There's a Canyon SRAM rider there as well.
These cobble climbs, how much harder is it climbing on the cobbles, Rochelle, than it is climbing on tarmac?
Well, it's obviously a real challenge. Just it takes a very strong, special type of rider to be able to feel like they're gliding across cobbles, because it's just like not being able to get traction. And you can see here, Amy Peters is one of the best riders probably in the world at riding cobbles. She has so much experience with it, and she's comfortable to lead the way there. But now we're seeing that these riders, Boels-Dolmans, they've got. Amy Peters may have just used all of her eggs.
That's an attack there, and that looks like Anna van der Breggen.
Yes, Boels-Dolmans it is too, so that was well played. Anna van der Breggen. Now, we haven't seen her really in action with this team because she wasn't with them last year, but it's hard with all the different jerseys. But Anna van der Breggen just doing a really strong, solid attack there, and it looks like she's followed by Lisa Brennauer. No, it's Elisa Longo Borghini.
Anna van der Breggen is known for trading attacks. We saw that was a perfect Boels move. You saw Amy Peters taking it up and making it fast on the earlier parts of the slope, and then when she lost her speed, and she just killed herself to take her too much, and as soon as she went, Anna van der Breggen went. That's the perfect 1-2. This is exactly those Dutch style racing, the Dutch style that you want to get. And look at that gap that they've got out already. We're in little tiny clumps all over the place, and remember, there's only 10 kilometres to get to that last pair of climbs. Oude Quaremont, and just 3 kilometres after that, the Paterberg. So those riders who are behind, they're really going to have to push to get to these front 4. It looks like Kasia Nieuwedoma there on the back, Elisa Longo Borghini on the front, Van der Breggen in second, and a rider for Orica Scott who's probably Annemiek van Vleuten, but it's hard to tell at the moment. There's Lizzie Deignan in a small group back, and she's sitting there with Boels-Dolmans. They've got Van der Breggen up the road. They've got Lizzie Deignan and Chantal Black there together with that rider from Sunweb. It's they're in a fantastic position. It feels like it's their race to lose right now. That's
Ashley Moolman-Passio there with number 41, Pauline Franprevot. Someone we haven't spoken about much here, but this is the head of the race and possibly the strongest bike riders in the race. Van der Breggen, Longo Borghini, Kasia Nieuwedoma, and Annemiek van Vleuten. So
This could be it. This could be the top four. This could be the top four at winning the race, and everyone else back there knows that. Now, of course, Van der Breggen's in a good situation because she's got so many Boels Dolmans riders behind her. So it's win-win. If she can make this stick, that's fantastic. But if she can't, she's got at least two teammates very, very close to the front.
Well, the thing we were saying about Lizzie Deignan before, she looks so comfortable, but she wasn't actually in that move. So that's the thing about her superb bike riding position. She is one of the most beautiful people to see on a bike because she doesn't show her weaknesses or struggles, or when she's riding she looks so good. So it's possible that she's not in the form to want to win. This is Ellen van Dijk really struggling. One of the riders we said will be one of the favourites today. She's having to work really hard to hold that wheel.
So you can see that chase group. It's got Paulina Fran-Prevot with the beautiful Canyon SRAM jersey with their very distinctive black with the bright colours. Ellen van Dijk, she's not so strong on the climbs, but she's still ferocious. These climbs are perfect for her. They're short, but still need to get the name of that Orica Scott rider. It's still, we can't quite see. We'll bring you a number as soon as we know. So Paulina Fran-Prevot, two Sunweb riders up there, and you can see as Lizzie Deignan attacks that Sunweb react instantly with Fleurtje Mackay, a great young rider, great young classics rider. Look at that. There's at least three Sunweb riders in there. At least three Boels Dolmans. They've played this race very well. But those Sunwebs, they're trying to get back. But when you're chasing back and you've got a rival rider on your wheel, that's a very psychologically difficult place to be in, isn't it?
Well, it'll be interesting to see. We would think that these riders would collaborate because they are all capable of. They're the strongest riders in the bike race. We predicted that these would be the bike riders that would be away. So. It'll be interesting to see if they do get caught again, but my prediction would be that if they do, they'll go again. They're the riders that are the strongest. So interesting break of 4.
The only thing you have to worry about when you're in a break of 4 is, of course, there's only 3 spots on the podium. So the thing that this group here will be hoping for is that front group doesn't work well together. That's Annemiek van Vleuten on the front, I think, taking up the move. Now Cassia Nieuwedoma taking her turn. Nieuwedoma and Van der Breggen know each other very well. They rode together on Rabo Live last year, and so they know each other's capabilities very well. Very interesting that out of those 4 riders, I'd say if it's Van Vleuten, she has the best sprint, doesn't she?
Well, Van der Breggen's pretty handy in a sprint as well. And I think it's just in a race like this, it's not necessarily your pure sprint, is it? It's what you've got left at the finish, because there might be riders that just have to absolutely empty themselves to get over the Paterberg. You know, Elisa Longo Borghini is probably the least fast of those 4, but the strongest possibly at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see how the finish plays out. And it's Sunweb that are under pressure now, missed the break after having good numbers. Ellen van Dijk there, number 31.
Yes, with Canyon, you can see Canyon SRAM there. Interesting that we've seen Pauline Fran-Prevot up the front. She was the rider who, in 2015, was the first rider ever to hold the world road, mountain bike and cyclocross jersey at the same time. But she had a terrible 2016 with tons of injury, plagued by illness and difficulty. She planned to go to the Olympics and try to win the world and the Olympic mountain bike and road race jersey at the same time, and she was devastated that her year went so badly. She said that she was considering actually quitting the sport, but she's decided to stay back. She's got some very strong support behind her. This is going to be gutting for them that they've missed that break. But at least if you're a rider like that, knowing you're still there. There's Hannah Barnes from Canyon SRAM working super hard with a Sunweb rider on her wheel, trying to get back up to that break. Because after this, Oude Quaremont at 16.7 kilometres to go, and then Paterberg 3 kilometres later at 13.2 kilometres to go. These have got some incredible climbers. So if you let Elisa Longo Borghini, Annemiek van Vleuten, Cassia Nieuwedoma get over those climbs, you're never going to see them back. So this is real game on, real desperation right there. So we're now split all over the split all over there, and it's going to be very unlikely that some of these small groups on the back can will see the race again. But they're going to keep trying. They're going to keep trying for their teammates. So
21 seconds, the gap. It doesn't sound big, but as we said, they are the riders that have got the legs today to finish this off. So it'll be interesting to see if it actually comes back. Like I said before, I think if it does, that these are the riders that you're going to see anyway. So 24.5 kilometres to go.
Annemiek van Vleuten, of course, won this race back in 2011. She was out in a group with Marianne Vos. Tatiana Andashina, the Russian, attacked, and it was and Annemiek van Vleuten was the only one who could chase. And of course, the chase group was just frustrated because they're in that difficult situation where if they chased Vos, they didn't want to let Vos win. So Annemiek's very, very, very experienced. They're all strong riders, but Elisa Longo-Borghini, I forget she's only 25.
Oh yeah, and winning Tour of Flanders 2 years ago. She's also won Strade Bianche. She's won Citilio. She has been around for a long time. Actually, she did point out the other day that she did a race with me when she was, I don't know, an absolute baby. She said like 10 years ago. So she's been around for a long time. But she has so much experience, and since her medal that she won in Rio at the Olympics, she's become even a more matured athlete, just more relaxed. And look at this gap now. That looks like that's going to be the four we see go to the finish.
That's huge. And even if they're caught right now, the confidence of their team, you can see the Boels-Tolmans riders frustrating the chase, we say. They've got a Sunweb rider on the front, but when you're a Sunweb rider chasing down, knowing that right on your wheel you've got 3 riders from a team with a rider up the road, that's a very psychologically difficult situation to be in, isn't it? You're just suffering because you know that if you do catch them back, there's another Boels rider ready to jump, ready to go. So yeah, it's a difficult spot. Anna van der Breggen and Elisa Longo-Borghini, of course, were out together in that final Olympic break, so they know each other very, very well. Van der Breggen at the back talking on her radio there. They're keeping constant communication with their director sportifs, don't they? So if a rider at the front is not feeling so good, she can tell her director, and they can let the riders behind know what's going on.
Well, it's the radio communication is so important, and we have just heard on the race radio that there's a problem with the race radio communication to the team directors. So the team directors in the car at the moment are absolutely blind. They're not getting information about which riders are in the break, what the breakaway is, so they're unable to give their riders instruction. The rider, if they can breathe, if they've got the energy, they can talk and tell them what the situation is. I'm away with 4 riders, I'm feeling good or I'm not feeling good. So yeah, but the radio communication is very important.
It is fascinating. This is where being a clever rider, because we talk about this a lot, you have to have brains as well. These riders all have race skills. There's such a different group. Annemiek van Vleuten, who's probably coming in the last few years of her career, Kasia Nieuwedoma, who's on the way up, and Anna van der Breggen and Elisa Longo-Borghini, who've been stars for years. They've all got such good skills. Van der Breggen and Longo-Borghini, of course, have incredibly good time trials, but so does Annemiek van Vleuten. So if these 4 can make it over the next set of the Oude Kwaremond and the Paterberg, they can probably they'll team time trial all the way to the end. Then their fear is that they get caught. But it looks like that Sunweb work. It looks like Lucinda Brand doing so much work. She's repaying her teammate Ellen van Dijk, who you can see there, and Corin Rivera, the very small little Sunweb rider in the white jersey with the black sleeves, American rider, super strong. There's Cecilia Uttrup Ludwig in the blue jersey of the best young riders. She's an amazing, definitely young talent. We haven't seen so much of her in the last few years because she was cycling part-time while finishing her high school part-time as well. Now she's finishing her high school full-time. Now she's 100% on cycling. She's signed a pro contract. We're going to see a lot more of Uttrup all throughout the future, I'm convinced. So 20 kilometres to go, last 20k, and this is going to hurt.
Well, you can see that gap is closing in a lot with the Sunweb team there under pressure to bring this back. They are giving absolutely everything. They know that once this gets to the next climbs, it's going to be difficult, but if they can close it before they get onto the Oude Kwaremond, they will have a chance.
This is a difficult. Every year the Ronde van Vlaanderen changes the course. They have a very different route. But this final section, Canaliaberg, Griesberg, Oude Kwaremond and Paterberg, and the finish is something they know very well. So these riders are. Where they're back on familiar territory right now. So we're in this kind of flattish section. Coming into
20 kilometres to go, so at 16.7 is the top of the Kwaremond, so they're getting closer now. Can these 4 riders just keep that gap until they get onto the climb?
Sunweb are doing everything they can to stop them, though, can't they? You can see them lining up on the front. When you're riding like that, and you know that your group is absolutely full of people who A, aren't helping you, and B, are just going to attack you if you do catch, how do you get over that? How do you work that mentally?
Well, it's a difficult situation for Sunweb because we saw that Ellen van Dijk wasn't feeling absolutely fantastic. So even if they do all the work to bring this back, they're bringing back 3 riders from Bol-Stolmans. There's big numbers there from other teams as well. So it's a difficult situation for Sunweb. Are they going to continue, or are they going to sit up at some point and say, well, they're within striking distance now, so there might be riders like Lizzie Deignan that want to jump over to this break.
Yeah, with only 16 seconds between them, and we saw Lizzie Deignan sitting there and waiting, and that's where it becomes very difficult. And as we go to 16 seconds between the two groups, I should say, it's fascinating, isn't it? You can see the groups behind struggling. These 4 riders, very compact, riding in formation, taking turns one after the other. But when you saw that overhead shot of the riders behind, with the second group behind, with the riders all over the place and struggling, it's a very different scenario. And these riders have ridden together a lot. They're strong rivals, but they know each other well, and this cooperation is absolutely vital at this point in the race.
Annemiek van Vleuten, she looks very, very comfortable.
She looks like she's out for a Sunday spin with her friends, doesn't she?
She does, and I mentioned that the first climb of the day that we saw her on, she looks so comfortable. Look at that big group just behind them. So they're just starting the Haut de Quaimont now, 18.8 kilometres to go. The top will be at 16.7.
This is got a max of 11.6% gradients. It's an average of 4%. It's 2.2 kilometres long. And then after it, 3 kilometres later is Paterberg, which has a max of 20%. It's super hard. So they really know that we're here. We're in the end of the race. And all of these people cheering from that side of the road. This is what Flanders is all about. This is from here. This is why you become a bike racer, to be at the front of the Ronde van Vlaanderen.
Well, these riders are so focused. That's Elisa Longo Borghini on the right, Kasia Nieuwendamme on the left, number 23, Annemiek van Vleuten, number 51, and Anna van der Breggen, the winner of the Olympic Games, sitting on the back there.
Oh, you can see how close the chase is coming to them, though. Isn't that interesting? Sunweb on the front having done their work. Will they have worked too hard, though? Is this going to pay off, or are they going to suffer? And the other big question, if these riders will get caught, which one's going to attack again? Riding very close together. They just make it look easy. But behind, it looks like Ashley Moolman-Pasio there from Cervelo Bigla, really pushing it back, really pushing it hard to get up to the front of the group. Once they catch them there, everything's going to change. And Moolman-Pasio, her very slight, slim rider, a superb climber. These climbs aren't particularly long, but Moolman is doing everything she can.
Well, Elisa Longo Borghini putting down the pressure now, and Kasia Nieuwendamme trying to respond. Anna van der Breggen, Annemiek van Vleuten just losing contact.
Yeah, that's very hard. Elisa Longo Borghini looks so
Kasia
good.
Nieuwendamme just losing contact. It's van der Breggen that moves up onto the wheel. Van der Breggen sees an opportunity here.
It's fantastic to see Van der Breggen back on good form. She was so sick for the start of the season, and she's such a strong bike rider. It's wonderful to see her back doing what she does best. Oh, Van Vleuten, she's struggling there, isn't she? But she's not quite lost the pace, and those group behind it looked like they were just going to catch them a moment ago. There's still a little bit more to the top of the climb. Oh, look at them. That's Ellen van Dijk is the Sunweb rider. She suffers on these climbs, but that's what Ellen does. She suffers, and she fights, and she never gives up.
Well, it's Elisa Longo Borghini putting down the pressure. As we said, her and Ellen van Dijk, who we see here, they have been very strong early season.
That's Lizzie Deignan. You can see the rainbow stripes. She just looks like she's just biding her time. She looks like she's enjoying herself at this point. Elisa Longo Borghini still working on the front. Still, you can see it's starting to get to her now. Kasia Nieuwendamme looking like she's suffering a little bit too. They've done a really fantastic job. Ellen van Dijk, she's not the most elegant bike rider in the world, but my goodness, the power that she puts down.
She's so strong, and you can see now the gap is a little bit more evident from that angle, and it's still Longo Borghini with Van der Breggen on the wheel. Van der Breggen probably being one of the fastest of these 4 if it goes to the finish.
But look at that, Ellen van Dijk still up there, and a teammate there for Annemiek van Vleuten as well, and Lizzie Deignan biding her time as well. I'm just wondering if they catch those four, who's going to attack first, Chantal Blaak or Lizzie Deignan from Boels Dolmans?
Well, if these riders can make contact.
Corin Rivera suffering. She's a sprinter. She's doing so well. She's really stepped up this season. She's fantastic. But a sprinter like Rivera, she's still young yet. This is really going to be painful. But this is the problem. They've got to get to. Don't want to let too much of a gap grow, because a rider like Ellen van Dijk and Lizzie Deignan, who is super fast on the descent, can maybe try and catch up when they descend. And that's a rider from Lotto Soudal there. That's number 161, Lotte Kopecky. She's been the rider who's stepped up so much this season. You would not expect a trackie to be up there on the cobbles, would you?
And she certainly is having a fantastic ride today, Lotte Kopecky, coming into form for the Track World Championships. But look at the atmosphere on this climb. And now Van der Breggen puts down the hammer, and Elisa Longo Borghini, who's done all the work so far, is able to stay with her. And Kasia Nieuwedoma and Annemiek van Vleuten just slipped off the back there. Kasia Nieuwedoma really going to fight back. She's fought back a couple of times, but these two are really putting the hammer down now.
Remember, they're all very strong time trial riders. They have that 13.2 flat run-in after the Paterberg, and so this plays right into their hands. It's a perfect scenario for Van der Breggen. She wins the race, wonderful. She gets caught, she's done fantastic work for her teammate, and that counts as a win too. Look at that gap growing between Van der Breggen and Longo Borghini and Van Vleuten and Nieuwedoma. This is fantastic racing.
Well, there was a question mark over Van der Breggen's form, but we've seen her have a little bit of a later start than usual to the season, but she is definitely in great form today. They'll come over the top. Now, how will this work go together with Annemiek van Vleuten and Kasia Nieuwedoma chasing? It looks like Boels Dolmans are pretty relaxed with leaving the race in the hands of Anna van der Breggen out front there. They've got certainly some strong numbers. Van der Breggen now. Van der Breggen and Longo Borghini, they know they have to just get together and ride this out to the finish. Van der Breggen will have the bigger interest given she's the faster sprinter. Elisa Longo Borghini will find it very difficult to win from this position. But a race for second place, given she's got no teammates behind her. This is probably the only thing that Elisa Longo Borghini can do, is work with Van der Breggen with, the hope or content of coming second today to Van der Breggen.
She's also, Longo Borghini is known for attacking at like 5 kilometres out, 3 kilometres out. There's always the chance that Van der Breggen could lose her concentration and give Elisa an option. There's still a lot to play for here. This road is tough, and you can see the gap they grew. They kept going. So although those two riders behind are suffering, they're still super strong. And we saw on the front of the chase group, Lizzie Deignan leading the chase group. That doesn't necessarily mean she's going full gas, does it? At that point, she looks slow up a little bit. She
does look very, very comfortable, and it looks like Boels Dolmans are very much in control of this race with the position that they're in. But here's number 161, Lotte Kopecky of Lotto Soudal. Absolutely superb ride from this track sprinter today. Ellen van Dijk there, number 31. We've spoken about being one of the favourites for today. She's had a hard day. But Elisa Longo Borghini and Anna van der Breggen, they are leading the race. This is the head of the race now. You see Annemiek van Vleuten of Orica Scott and Kasia Nieuwedoma of WM3 Pro Cycling just behind.
There's still the last climb left. There's still the last climb left to come, and then that run-in. So they know that if they just have to not let them go back. And now they start to descend, and we've got a little bit more of we'll start to descend in a moment, and we'll have a little bit more of a time to break. None of this land is really flat until we get to the end. But then they run in along the river valley, and that's an interesting place to chase, isn't it? Because you end up with that long straight road, very long, very straight, where the chasers can actually see how far they are ahead, which of course gives you motivation. But at this point, the curving, twisting, beautiful riding country, beautiful lanes, it's all to play for, isn't it, for these front four?
Well, they've got a very strong peloton behind them, small little bunch actually chasing them down, so they have to keep the pressure on the pedals with 15 kilometres to go. A strong 4 riders there. the Paterberg, the last, only one more climb to go and 13 kilometres from the top, so they're not far from the Paterberg now. The question is, can they get over that Paterberg and to the finish without this big group of very strong riders just behind them chasing them down?
This is so exciting. This is why we love the sport, isn't it? This is exactly what we want from the Ronde van Vlaanderen. Complete unpredictability. Anything can happen right now. They think. I mean, you could puncture on the Paterberg. You could puncture on the running. Oh, Longo Borghini. I love watching her race. The way she attacks and the way she really digs in like this.
And she's an all-round cyclist, and descending is one of her favourite things. So when we go downhill, you'll see her move to the front. And this is Annemiek van Vleuten, really interested in trying to keep these four away as well. Each of these riders will be very keen to keep the break away for sure. The rider in the strongest position is the one in third wheel, the winner of the Olympic Games in Rio, Anna van der Breggen. She's got such a strong team, Boels Dolmans, plenty of cards to play behind her. But, you know, she's possibly the fastest out of these four, so she's got every right and every interest to drive this to the finish. Longo Borghini hits the Paterberg at the front. This is the last chance for her to do something. Oh, she's pulled her foot out of the pedal. Just got it back in quickly.
Oh, and Van Vleuten was right next to her, ready to take that any advantage that comes. It's so good to see Van Vleuten taking those descents, because after that hideous crash at the Olympics, where we literally thought she had some terrible injury, it's so good to see that her confidence isn't dropped and that she's back here. She's a very, very popular rider. She's going to have a lot of fans out on the road cheering her on. All four of these riders, they're the top riders in the world. As we said at the start of the race, it's the best of the best who win the Ronde van Vlaanderen. Each of those riders deserve it. Look at that, Ellen van Dijk, absolutely not giving up at all, and keeping a very close eye. At least three Boels Dolmans riders chasing.
You know, this is going to be very close at the finish. When they get over the top, 13 kilometres to go, you can see these breakaway riders are quite fatigued with a really big, strong peloton just behind them, just fighting to keep in contact. They're going to have to work really, really well together to bring this home to the finish. Annemiek van Vleuten now just over the top. It's amazing in such a short distance on the Paterberg, such a steep cobbled climb, how many seconds you can actually lose.
20% gets to at the steepest point. I mean, you've got the people cheering. You hear the Italians be shouting Forza Elisa out there. The Belgians will be wishing there was a Belgian rider there. But coming off the cobbles, now it's the time to rest. Now it's the time to at least feel a little bit better there. And look, behind them in the first group, it's all Boels Dolmans. Chantal Black, Lizzie Danon, and with Pauline Ferrand-Prévot there in the pink and black of Canyon SRAM. But there, whatever happens at the front, Boels are the strongest team. That's three riders.
They are the strongest team, Sarah, but there's two very, very fast sprinters in this group, in Kopecky and Rivera. So if this group does, in the last 13 kilometres, chase down those four leading riders, we could see an unexpected victory from a Kopecky from Belgium or from Rivera, so the American. It's such an interesting race here. Moolman Passio goes over the top there, but 44 seconds. Can they keep that advantage? They're four very strong riders. One would think that if they can work together, they'll take this all the way to the finish.
And Cecilia Uttrup-Ludwig there, still on back, and Hannah Barnes. A few years ago, we thought Hannah Barnes was a pure sprinter, and here she is in the second group on the Paterberg.
Now we have the third group in view. That's Audrey Cordon there.
Looks like a rider from Orica Scott, a rider from Sunweb, a rider from Silence Pro Cycling, who they're a young team still. It's only their second season, and their biggest name rider is Kirsten Wild, who of course is a sprinter and is going to be looking at the Track World Championships. That's Amanda Spratt there, the Orica Scott rider, little small spratty, a former BMX rider, absolute tenacious fighter, loyal domestique, exactly the kind of rider you want on your team.
So we're just getting the pictures now of all of the race behind the leaders, but this group of riders will not make it back to these four with 12 kilometres to go, 46 seconds. They're a strong group of four riders. One would think they possibly should be able to hold off the peloton, but it depends what happens back there. It depends how Anna van der Breggen's feeling, because if she gives any sign that she's a little bit fatigued and can't win this race, we'll see Boels Dolmans close this down. But Van der Breggen would certainly back herself from this group. She won at the Rio Olympics with a dynamite sprint, Annemiek van Vleuten can sprint very well as well. However, she's done it a bit tough on the climbs, a little bit fatigued. Kasia Nieuwedoma and Elisa Longo-Borghini, both not known to be sprinters. So out of this group, now you can see Van der Breggen at the back. She just dropped off. She's having a talk on the radio, probably to let her team know how she's feeling.
So they need to chase her back, because of course, if you know, one of the things that Boels Dolmans could do, they could put all of their riders on the front and just ride, not slow it down too much, but just not put it in their top speed, which will frustrate the riders who want to get there. Nieuwedoma, now we said that she doesn't have the best sprint there, but when she became European Under-23 champion a couple of years ago, she was out in a break of 5 with 2 Italian sprinters and 2 Dutch sprinters, and she won because although she wasn't the fastest, she just took her chance and took her chance to go. She's been knocking on the door of a big win for a very long time. She was second in Strade Bianchi behind Elisa Longo-Borghini, and if she wins this, WM3, they're a much smaller team than they were from Rabo Liv. Marianne Vos, their team owner, their team leader, is sick. If she can win this will be the biggest win of her career.
Oh, she'll certainly have her work cut out. If you look at Anna van der Breggen sitting on the back there, she looks very, very comfortable and confident. My guess is that she's given word that she's up for this. She's in a group with 3 other riders that she knows she can beat in a sprint. However, she's not rolling through at the minute.
Not taking 10. And Elisa Longo-Borghini, do you think she's done too much work as a team leader?
Yeah, I mean, too much work. She had to do what she had to do because she didn't have support of her teammates behind her, so she can't afford to not work because there's no backup plan. Whereas in the other races, the other teams, there's backup riders in this group. Elisa Longo-Borghini doesn't have that, so her only chance here is to keep this away and then hope for a fly or a long sprint or to catch them by surprise at the finish. She has obviously some reason to do some work. Kasia Nieuwedoma as well. 10 kilometres to go, 42 seconds. It's going to be a very close finish. Can they hold off the peloton?
It's a perfect chasing road, though, isn't it, Rochelle? It's long, it's straight. You can see where as the second group come around this corner, they'll be able to see where the riders are at the front. This could come down to a very, very close finish. 39 seconds and 9.9 kilometres. Can this 4 make it? And if they do, which one's going to make it first?
Well, it doesn't look like they're going to make it at this point because Van der Breggen's not doing work. And while she's not doing work, that means that there'll be some hesitation from the other 3. She's just on the back now having something to eat. She knows she's got some strong teammates behind her. So be interesting to see if she starts to work or what's going to happen here, but the fact that she's sitting on it looks like this group may be caught.
And then you can see Elise Van Vleuten just moving off the front there. Van Vleuten's got Amanda Spratt behind her, but Spratt is not known as a sprinter. Nieuwedoma's solo at this point in the race. Longo-Borghini's solo at this point in the race. And that's psychologically very worrying for those front 2 riders as well, isn't it? Because Van der Breggen, she can just play mind games, which is much part of cycling as road skills are, aren't they? Van der Breggen in that.
Interesting move from Van der Breggen, because had she have contributed to this break and work, she's the fastest sprinter there and could win, but she may have been told that Lizzie Deignan or another rider from Boels Dolmans is feeling really good back in the peloton. So interesting that Van der Breggen's not pulling through for turns here.
No, but Elisa Longo-Borghini and Kasia Nieuwedoma are not about to give this up. They're still going to push and push. They're fantastic time trialists, of course. Elisa Longo-Borghini, a multiple Italian time trial champion, very, very strong. Very good, and as in a perfect scenario here, Kasia Nieuwedoma now taking her front. She's been a Polish time trial champion in her time too. So they've got some riders to work. This is that chase group there. Pauline Ferrand-Prévot. This is the second chase group on there.
Well, second chase group has Rivera in it, so she didn't make it into that first chasing group that has Lizzie Deignan, the winner of last year's Tour of Flanders. But we do see Kopecky in there. We could be, and this is actually the first chasing group. So we've got 4 riders out in front, and then we've got this group, which has Lizzie Deignan, Hannah Barnes, Pauline Franprevot, Rivera, Kopecky, some really big names there, and they're only 24 seconds behind these 4 riders that are out leading.
They have got some super strong sprinters there. We saw Corinne Rivera. She's the only rider who's been on the podium for 2 of the 4 World Tour races, of course, this season. You don't want this, and this becomes difficult too, because if Bulls come back, of course, while they've got Lizzie Deignan, and she's very, very fast. Can Lizzie Deignan outsprint Kopecky? Can Lizzie Deignan outsprint Rivera? Who else is in that group? There's so many questions. Hannah Barnes there in the British National Champions jersey.
And who is Hannah Barnes riding for? Is there another Canyon SRAM rider in there that she's doing the work for? There is Pauline Franprevot, obviously feeling good, but Hannah Barnes herself is a handy sprinter, but Pauline Franprevot has obviously indicated that she wants to have a sprint today. Rivera herself doing the work. Is she doing it for Ellen van Dijk? We've seen Ellen van Dijk do lots of work in the last weeks for her sprinters. So we've still got Amy Peters in the group there from Boels-Dolmans as well. This is a handy group of riders. There's a very good chance that this is going to come back 7.6 kilometres to go.
These are the best of the best. You can see Chantal Black from Boels-Dolmans. She's got the white white outline of her glasses, but also Cecilia Uttrup, the young Dane, Savella Bigler. We never would have picked her to be at the end of Ronde van Vlaanderen and at the start of the season. It's coming down 7.4 kilometres to go. This is so breathtaking. This is what Flanders is all about.
This is a very, very interesting scenario for me that Anna van der Breggen doesn't want to work in this group because she looked to be one of the 2 strongest riders with Elisa on the climbs, able to follow everything, able to apply the pressure, to be there. And she's the fastest of these 4 here, so the other 3 riders. Now we're getting a view of how long that actually looks with 7 kilometres to go, 22 seconds. It's going to be a close finish. It's Ellen van Dijk of Sunweb now driving it on the front.
Watch her doing her thing. This is what she's good at. She is there. She's going to put down the pressure. She's going to close it. It's interesting. Her and Corinne Rivera have traded turns to take over. Sunweb, they're going to be disappointed they missed that move, but my goodness, they're making up for it. So that's Pauline Franprevot on front in Canyon SRAM colours, Ellen van Dijk in the white and black as Sunweb, Amy Peters in Boels-Dolmans, Corinne Rivera, Hannah Barnes in the British Champions stripes. That's a rider from Ale Cipollini there in the fluorescent. Big strong teams there. There's at least 2 Ale Cipollini, and what's Ale Cipollini riders known for? They're known for their sprinting. The Italian teams, almost all sprinters, and it's going to be interesting to see which ones we can actually see there. There's a rider from Orica Scott up there, and Elena Cecchini on the back. That's who, if Canyon SRAM have 3 riders in that front group, that's very, very interesting. This is going to be, it's all politics and dynamics. You can see Lizzie Deignan and Chantal Black sitting at the back of the group now. They're watching for every move. At this point, you'd expect someone to attack out of the front, and if they do, Deignan and Peters and Black are absolutely there to make the most of it and get them right back.
Well, 6 kilometres to go, 22 seconds, so they're holding a bit of time now. Elisa Longo-Borghini, Annemiek van Vleuten, Kasia Nieuwendomme and Anna van der Breggen sitting on the back there. Hasn't done a turn for a little while. So
we haven't seen her on the front. I mean, of course it's hard to tell because we've not been looking at them all the time. But this must be frustrating, and it's very, when you're in a bike race like this, actually winding up your rivals and frustrating them is quite a good tactic too, because the rider at the front, she wants to be confident, she wants to know she can win, she wants to just be feeling her strength. She doesn't want to be getting angry at the rider behind her because that's going to take her mind off the game.
Van der Breggen is very much saying we're in control here, Boels-Dolmans, which they certainly are, because Van der Breggen could attack these 3 and win with a little solo break, and she could definitely out-sprint them. So she's been having that advantage of being able to sit on, because she's got some sure cards back in the peloton with Deignan, with a couple of teammates back in the peloton, and Annemiek van Vleuten has a lot of interest to work this as well.
It's still, the gap is 20 seconds at 5.2 kilometres to go. It's moving up and down between 20 and 22 seconds. Ellen van Dijk there pushing on that chase. She's not going to stop. And look at that power. This is why you have Ellen van Dijk worth 3 teammates of anyone else. But that's a rider there from Lenswood Quota there. That's very good to see one of the small teams keep a rider right up there in the finale of the Ronde van Vlaanderen. It's been a fantastic season for spread of talent, just getting more and more around the podium.
Well, 5 kilometres to go. You can see now that they're in sight, so we might see some attacks and explosiveness out of that group there, the chasing group. It's a hard ask for these 4 to stay away, but what is Van der Breggen going to do? Is she going to come through and contribute to this to ensure the victory for herself, or is she going to hope that her teammates come back? It's a very, very interesting bike race we have on our hands here. Kasia Nieuwendamme, she really wants it to stay away. 4.6 kilometres, 17 seconds, closing very fast.
As you can see, Van der Breggen looking back and keeping it. She knows exactly where her teammates are.
Well, the only person that's working back there is Ellen van Dijk. So 4.4 kilometres, 18 seconds. Van der Breggen, a lot of communication on the radio, sitting there on the back. Elisa Longo-Borghini has no option but to ride this one out, even if it means a 4th place for her at Flanders this year. There's no point in her sitting up. She's got no teammates back in that group. But Annemiek van Vleuten, beautiful pedaling style. She looks really, really comfortable. Kasia Nieuwendamme coming through now.
They've been training terms well, but you can see just turning the corner how close the other riders are. Of course, there's foreshortening, but only 16 seconds with 4 kilometres to go, Rochelle. They're nearly here.
They're nearly closed it in. It looks like they're going to close this in now. 4 kilometres to go, 17 seconds.
At this point, they know exactly there's a banner all the time. They're going to be coming into the sun. That's Maria Giulia Confadlonieri from Lensburg Quota. She's another top sprinter, another tracky type rider. Who else have we got? Who else have we got in that group? Because the other thing is some of these riders who've been sitting in the back, not getting on the front. That's perfect for them. An Ale Cipollini rider, a sprinter. It's very clever riding from there. They're just sitting there waiting for the chance so they can come over the top.
This is so exciting. There's 16 seconds now, 3.6 kilometres to go. These 4 riders are in sight, but it's 3.6 kilometres to go. The chasing group there, they've got some firepower in there. It's going to be a very, very exciting sprint if they do catch these 4 riders. 15 seconds, 3.5 kilometres to go.
Oh, this is so exciting. There's about 15 riders in that chase group as well. Will this come down to a bunch sprint? A bunch sprint at Ronde van Vlaanderen? Rochelle, would you have predicted that?
Well, it could well be now. 14 seconds, 15 seconds. It's hovering around there. If they take the pressure off the pedals just for a second out in front, it's Elisa Longo-Borghini who knows that it's really up to her now. If she wants to run a top 4 at Tour of Flanders, she needs to keep this away. The same goes for Kasia Nieuwendamme.
And they know, I mean, Anna van der Breggen, who hasn't taken a turn there on the front. This could be the type, this is so much to play for. We've had success for Longo-Borghini. We've had success for Boels Dolman, but with Orica Scott not having won a race yet.
Well, we can see how close that is now with 3 kilometres. It looks like it's caught, but it's still a gap. And it only takes Van Dijk, who's chasing, to swing off and no one to come through for this to stay away. But 12 seconds, it's so close now.
We're seeing that gap move up and down between 12 and 11 seconds. And as you say, if other riders, this is the politics of it, of course, too, isn't it? Because if they don't want to take their turn, and why should they? If you're a sprint team, if you're Maria Giulia Confadlonieri, for example, you're going to want it to come down to a bunch sprint, but you're going to want other people to get it to that point. And with Canyon Schramm having the numbers in there, then the other riders going to go, well, Canyon, well, Sunweb, I'm by myself. I can't do anything. It's all up to you.
This is going to be one of the most exciting finishes we have ever seen. 2.4 kilometres to go, 10-second gap. Now there's a little bit of hesitation in this group of 4. That's when the chasing group's going to close them in very quickly. But
they can't hesitate at this point. They've got to keep going. They've got to commit to it 100%. Because if you even look at someone, even that time when you take your mind off the front and say, hey, your turn, no, your turn, you can lose it completely.
The 4 riders that are out in front, they know that they have now just been not quite caught, but it's very, very close behind them. And they know that if they keep riding this out, that it's a win for Van der Breggen, who's just been sitting on. But this is closing in pretty quickly now. So some tired legs amongst those 4 out in front. We have got an exciting finish coming up, 2 kilometres to go. It looks like the front group have stopped cooperating now.
Yeah, and it's going to be, they seem to stop cooperating, but who's going to chase? What they're going to have to do is we're probably going to see more. 1.8 kilometres to go, Rochelle, only 11 seconds. Some very, very fast sprinters in there. We've got Confandolieri, we've got Eniale Cipollini's a sprinter, we've got Lotte Kopecky, who can see in the red jersey with the white stripe of Lotto Soudal.
Wouldn't that be amazing if Kopecky could win the Tour of Flanders? It's been an amazing ride for her just to be in this position with a chance to win. Now they're closing down, very close now. Looks like it's going to be a bunch sprint at Tour of Flanders. We've not seen this for a while.
Yeah, we've got Gracie Elvin there, of course, from Orica Scott, who's sprinted very well, who's been sprinting very well in the last week. Look, they're not stopping. I love Elisa Longo Borghini not stopping. She knows they're nearly caught. She's looking behind her there, but she just wants to keep it going. But they're going to get taken up. 3 Boels Dolmans riders, 1.2 kilometres to go, Rochelle. Look, they've just been getting
under
caught.
1 kilometre to go. They've just been caught. That was a top effort by those 4 riders. Anna van der Breggen still has a chance. She's been sitting on the wheel and recovering, so she's going to slip straight back in there. And Annemiek van Vleuten also. So now we have a bunch sprint at the Tour of Flanders, and Ellen van Dijk leading out Rivera.
Ellen van Dijk, super strong, is still on the front there. Anna van der Breggen with Lizzie Deignan behind her, and number 4 Chantal Black just behind there. Look, and there Rivera's speeding up. Van der Breggen still doing the lead out.
It looks like it's a Boels Dolmans lead out for Chantal Black. Lizzie Deignan is second in line there behind Anna van der Breggen. So Lizzie Deignan opens up. She's got 2 Boels Dolmans riders on the wheel. She's got Black, and she's also got Peters in there as well. On the other side of the road, you've got Pauline Franprevot, but Rivera from Sunweb. This will be a dream for their team after the work of Ellen van Dijk, but it's Black on the left side of the road for Boels Dolmans. Here comes Riviera. It's a long, hard sprint. Black Riviera in the middle. Who is it going to be? And Kopecky coming late. Rivera, it's Corin Rivera of Sunweb after the amazing work that Ellen van Dijk did. That is a superb victory from the young sprinter.
When I saw Corin Rivera win Trofeo Alfredo Binda, she was ecstatic. It was her first big win, but she has just won. An American just won the Ronde van Vlaanderen. A sprinter just won the Ronde van Vlaanderen.
She can't believe it. Look, she just cannot believe it. And I can imagine she would be completely exhausted.
It's been a hard ride for Rivera. Oh, look at her, giving all her love and support to Van Dijk, who gave it. That's as much Van Dijk's victory as it is Rivera's. Look at that team spirit right there.
Ellen van Dijk, she just rode and rode and rode. That was a superb team effort by those two. What a fantastic pairing. But Ellen van Dijk, I mean, yes, she's completely owed that victory. And once again this season, she has just set up her teammates time and time after again.
Rivera, she won something like 50 American National Championships titles as a junior across road, track, mountain bike, cyclocross. She was knocking on the door of a big success for years and years. Look at that sprint. She's suffering. That's not the pretty sprint, but she's struggling.
You see
struggling.
Rivera on the left here. She actually stopped pedaling for a few strokes. I don't know if that was for a little rest or she thought the finish was there. She kicked again, and it's Black. And we think third place may be Gracie Elvin of Orica Scott or Kopecky on the left.
If that for either rider, that is probably more. That's worth more than a win in a smaller race, isn't it? Coming on the podium of the Ronde van Vlaanderen. But Corin Rivera, she'd been being part-time as a student along her cycling career. She's been staying in North American teams. This is her first full season committing to being a full-time professional. And my goodness, it's paid off. Sunweb managed to develop Leah Kirkman, Floortje Mackay last year, but they've really fantastic. There's Cecilia Uttrup Ludwig in the blue jersey. She'll keep her best young riders jersey into the Ardennes.
The heads are going down of Boels Dolmans. They'll be the most disappointed, obviously, coming out of today, possibly without a podium. We're still waiting for the final decision on the third place. But Boels Dolmans, Anna van der Breggen was in prime position, didn't work the brake. Here we see the photo. So Corin Rivera of Team Sunweb. Oh no, second place does go to Chantal. Oh, it's close. Is it Gracie Elvin in second place?
That is very, very close. After the last couple of, we saw a photo finish last year and another one this year. But you know, we think of the Ronde van Vlaanderen, we think of sprinters and say single riders and pairs. So to come to a bunch sprint is fantastic. waiting still for results, which we'll bring you as soon as we see them. But we think that's Elvin in second, Rivera in third, yeah, it's been, as you say, Bowles. It was their race. It was their race to lose, and sadly, their great tactics and their huge numbers didn't pay off.
Well, it was certainly a very exciting finish. Here we are with Corin Rivera at the finish.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't even know what happened, to be honest, but when your teammates turn themselves inside out for you and you're the sprinter, you have to get the job done. So, I mean, we're all dying out there. It's the hardest race of the year. And so, yeah, we all gave it everything.
Ellen van Beek was very strong today.
She's always strong. It's Ellen. Yeah, she's a monster for sure, and she does everything. And, yeah, she's a big part of our teamwork for sure.
At the Paterberg, there was quite a big gap. Did you believe that you could still come back?
Yeah, it's a race you have to keep fighting, you know. Even if it's like right in front of you, you have to give it just a little extra push. So, yeah, there was a little bit of a gap, but yeah, the race isn't over until you hit the line.
How beautiful is the Ronde van Vlaanderen for you?
It's unreal. It like reminds me of like racing in America, where the crowds are wild and the fans are insane, but it's also like one of the hardest, most technical races of the year. So, yeah, it's unreal for sure.
You're young, but you were strong enough to survive the hills today. Did you surprise yourself?
I wouldn't say surprised. No, I don't think I was surprised. I think the plan was, you know, with me, Ellen and Lucinda in the final, and yeah, I'm the sprinter, so I have to be there. And when my teammates are counting on me, yeah, I have to do my job.
That's what you did. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, here we're seeing the replay. She was labelled as a sprinter up until the last couple of weeks, but done some really fantastic things. It's Corin Rivera in the black and white of the Sunweb team. We still haven't got final word of who took it, but Lotte Kopecky on the outside with a big throw. We think it might have been Gracie Elvin in second, Chantal Black in third, and Kopecky really close there, but it would be a dream for Kopecky if she landed on the podium.
Looking at Rivera, she couldn't believe it. Watching it coming there. We've still got these riders crossing the line, and it's interesting seeing the sprints, even for these minor places, because even if you get 48th at Flanders, that still means a huge deal.
Well, it certainly does. I think you mentioned this morning, Sarah, that I finished 50-something at Flanders, and I said to you before, I think I never finished Flanders as a pure sprinter. But Rivera there, she made the comment that she didn't surprise herself, and I don't think she did in reality either, because she knows her form, and she knows that she is a little bit more than just a pure sprinter. And she can get to... Here we go, official results. So, Rivera in first place, Gracie Elvin of Orica Scott in second, and Chantal Black of Bowles Dolmans takes third place. And Annemiek van Vleuten, so fantastic finish there from Orica Scott with two riders in the top four. Lotte Kopecky in fifth place, Cecchini in sixth. And we go down to 10th place, Elisa Longo Borghini, so the points for the World Tour leader will also be very close. We might see a change in the leader's jersey.
That Elena Cecchini, she's now been in the top 10 in all 5 Women's World Tour races this season. She said to me yesterday that it was bittersweet for her. She knows she's super strong, but she'd trade all of those 4 if she could just get one win.
Well, you know, the thing about the World Tour jersey is we're trying to identify and look for one of the all-round best cyclists in the world, and Elena Cecchini has proven that to finish top 10 in all 5 different World Tour events so far, that she is an all-round type of rider that deserves to be in the World Tour leader's jersey. So back, she worked for this win. Such a worthy winner, just amazing to see her, and you can imagine how happy the American fans are right now. There's Americans around the world cheering their hearts out for her, just delighted for her. You cannot imagine the work and the satisfaction that Ellen van Dijk would have got to see Rivera cross that line first, because she was one of the strongest bike riders in the race. We've been saying that since the start of today's race, that Ellen van Dijk is one of the strongest, and she uses every everything she has, her form, her condition, her mentality, everything to set her teammates up for the win. And to see Rivera pull that off, like Corin Rivera said, I couldn't afford to not win after what my teammates did for me today.
We saw them out. We saw from Rosanna Slick's early attack. They had a plan. They didn't panic. When the four leaders were out there solo, and we were talking about how hard it was with 4 Bold Stormers riders in the group with them, but they didn't struggle. They didn't suffer. They didn't let themselves get overwhelmed by it. They just did their jobs, and they're going to cross. They can go home happy. They're the only team who've won more than one world tour race this season. Corin Rivera's now been 1-2 and been on the podium. She's stepped up to take her place as one of the absolute superstars of the sport. We said at the start how Ronde van Vlaanderen winners are world champions. They're winners of all sorts of big races. Is Corin the future?
12 months ago, we may not have put her up there for a world championship, but you certainly have to now, because Tour of Flanders, it was a hard race today. It was longer than it's been in the past. Okay, the weather was good and in favour for a sprinter, but the terrain, the extra climbs that they had, the cobbles, I think Rivera has to be a chance for a world title. Super fast-handed little sprinter.
It's going to be injured, but to be a fly on the wall at other teams' talks after, and of course, Rochelle, you get that honour with Wiggle Hi-Fi. How do you feel about your team's performance?
Well, I think our card we had to play today was Jolien Daughter, and bike racing's bike racing, and like I said, we had word halfway through the race that she wasn't feeling good, and that can happen, especially in races that you put so much effort and target into. So Elisa Longo Borghini, I think she did the team very proud. Wiggle High Five today. She did all that she could riding to the finish. Like we said, she's been one of the strongest since Strade Bianchi at the start of the season in the women's peloton. So, yeah, I mean, the thing about the racing today and the racing in women's cycling is that we're just seeing so many new riders come out and take big wins. So Anna van der Breggen's on the front here. Leading out. So that's the Bold Stolmans train on the right. Van der Breggen, Armitstead and Chantal Black. On the left there we have Van Vleuten leading out Gracie Elven.
And that's a very interesting thing to watch. You can watch how Lizzie Danon took up there, and she started her lead out a little bit too late.
Took the wind. If she took the right on the wheel of Gracie Elven, she might have been booked there. That's where we said she stopped pedaling. And then she kicks. She didn't have a perfect lead out. She had a very long in the wind sprint. So interesting to see that Kopecky just pushed off the wheel there as well.
Kopecky was ijzersterk vandaag.
You can see Lotte Kopecky. She's watching another couple of years' time, and we'll have Lotte Kopecky coming up here to win.
Ik ben wel tevreden met de wedstrijd.
In de finale waren er enkele aanvallen en je kon telkens mee met de beste.
Ja, ik voel me echt super en bergop moest ik voor iemand onder doen, denk ik. Op het einde waren er nog 4 weg, maar ik zat eigenlijk wel in de zetel, omdat ik zat als enige van de ploeg nog vooraan, dus ik moest niet rijden. En op het einde komt alles samen en dan begin je te denken van, wat is dat hier? Ik kan hier de ronde winnen. En ik dacht even dat ik ingesloten zat, maar dan uiteindelijk kon ik er toch nog vrij goed uitkomen. En vierde is natuurlijk super.
Ja, toen die 4 de leiders weg waren, leek het alsof ze weg waren. Hè? Maar jij bent er blijven in geloven?
Even dacht ik van, het zijn wel 4 sterke renners die voorop zijn. Maar Elle van Dijk zat nog bij ons en dat is gewoon een motor. Dus ja, het was echt fantastisch dat het gat werd toegereden.
Ja, hoe mooi was het voor jou om langs die Vlaamse wegen te rijden met al die fans?
Dat was wel leuk. Afgelopen jaar was het altijd aan de kant als ze Jolien riepen. En nu hoor ik toch al vrij veel meer naam, dus dat is wel plezant.
Geniet er nog van, proficiat.
Just 21, Lotte Kopecky. She was 6th in the Dwars door Vlaanderen last week. She came 2nd in the Drentse Acht. And this is after winning the Omnium in the Cali Track World Cup and coming 2nd in Glasgow. She's going to be going to Track World Championships next week.
Yeah, she's certainly in good form. She'll team up with Jolien Daughter to ride the Madison at the World Championships. They are going in as some favourites, and after the ride that she's had today, absolutely fantastic. You can just see her disappointment when she crossed the line, Lotte Kopecky, but here's the celebration of Rivera.
She's going to have this moment for the rest of her life.
And the teamwork there by Ellen van Dijk.
You can just see how happy Van Dijk is for her for her teammate there. So thank you for joining us today at the Ronde van Vlaanderen. I'm Sarah Connolly here with Rochelle Gilmore. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
Oh, it was a very exciting race. It delivered everything that we were hoping for. There was the breakaway. We saw the strongest riders of 4, and then that dynamite sprint at the end, and a very exciting one. A very worthy winner and a very worthy team that has won today at Tour of Flanders.
Voor Katusha Alpecin, de nummer 81, Alexander Pistos. Voor Team Sky, de nummer 102, Luke Rowe. En de nummer 103, de Italiaan Gianni Mosco. Voor FTG, de nummer 151, Arno Demar. Voor het Team Abu Dhabi, het nummer 176, Sasha Modolo. Voor Rocky Groep Colbert, het nummer 197, Victor van